I understand that we're getting into the Arrow sale. It's been going for almost 2 weeks and we've probably spent most of our money. I've seen lots of titles coming and going throughout this sale, going in and out of stock. It's worthwhile keeping an eye on the things that you're after because it might just pop back in. You never know. This is going to be my last recommendations for this Arrow sale, I think. I've got 12 titles that I want to recommend that I own and can vouch for, and there is 3 other movies that I've seen which I don't own a disc for, which I think are really underrated kind of gems that you really need to have a look at. So we're going to dive into this. So let's get started with some fantastic movies. Now, first up, we have Deep Red. I can't do one of these videos without doing a Dario Argento movie, and I think quite possibly Deep Red might be my favourite Argento movie that he's done. I think the story is solid, I think the cinematography is stunning, and that theme tune is a work of art, and the way it reveals the murderer is just stunning. It's breathtaking how it's done. The way the mystery unfolds in this one is riveting, and it's a little bit longer one of his movies, but I think it is one of the most rewarding. And if you're looking to ease yourself into giallo, I think Deep Red is a great start. Next up, we have the wonderful Zombie Flesh Eaters. If you haven't seen Lucio Fulci's classic Time to Get That Fixed, this is a RAM disc full of amazing extras, and it's been a disc that's been in Arrow's hands for a long while. So I'm starting to wonder if that license is coming to an end. This is a standout movie. It's got great atmosphere, gore, effects. I think everybody knows the eyeball scene, and if they don't know that, they definitely know the shark zombie fight underwater, which is just so silly and yet just perfect. And the movie has lots of things like that. It's just a fantastic zombie movie, and one that if you don't have it, you should make it into your collection. Now, next up, I have the limited edition of Candyman. If you want the movie, you can still pick up the standard edition, which has the same disc. You're just missing the booklets and that. And this is a phenomenal transfer from Arrow in this one. It is beautiful looking, and this is one of those haunting rarities from the 90s that is just wonderful. A horror movie that has stood the test of time, that was a breakout when it arrived in the early 90s and is still a fantastic movie. Tony Todd is amazing as the Candyman. It's full of horrific set pieces and has one of the best scores I have ever heard in a horror movie. Next up, from Frank Henenlotter, who has a couple of movies in Arrow Video's library, and this one is Frankenhooker. This is one of those ones, if you've never heard of, you get this visage and you get the title and you kind of guess what it's going to be. And you're not wrong, really, but there is such an imbued sense of energy, of just nonsense, of wonderful effects that keep bringing me back to this movie. Some fantastic performances, and it's just a really silly, funny movie that goes for it and achieves all that silliness and the gore and the blood and the craziness that it goes after. And I think it's a movie that has that polarising title and image, but is a must-own. Next up, it is a personal favourite of mine, and it may not be for everybody, but I love Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. It's one that I grew up watching. It's incredibly silly, about a TV hostess who kind of hosts horror nights, horror movies, and she discovers that she's inherited some property, goes to get it, and she is descendant from witchcraft. Her aunt was a witch, and she gets embroiled in this kind of silly things within the towns, and it's not really a case of being overly scary. It has gore and it has good effects, but it's most definitely a comedy, and I think it leans heavily into that. And I think Elvira is a wonderful character, it's a wonderful movie, and it's just one of those kind of warm blanket movies that I throw on all the time because I just love it. And from one kind of silly movie to another, this one starring Vincent Price is Theatre of Blood. And again, this is another one that I've loved since I discovered on TV way back. And this one is all about an actor who is killing his vicious critics, and he does it in such novel ways, taking extreme murders from plays that Shakespeare has written and turning them into his own kind of torturous deaths for these critics. It is wonderfully over the top. It is just perfectly delivered by Vincent Price, who gets to really ham it up in this role and does wonderful stuff, as he usually does anyway. But Theatre of Blood is a fantastic movie. And there's a couple of other Vincent Price movies within the Arrow video collection, but quickly I'll just point out Dr. Phibes. Both of those movies are going out of print, or some of them may be out of print. If you don't have them, you should definitely pick them up. Definitely the first one. And now for something completely different. Gaspar Noé's Climax, a completely bonkers movie that is not for everyone, and that's just right from the get-go. You have this troupe of dance people who they're working on a routine. They're working on something they're going to take out and tour around America, and this is their final practice. It's a movie that's set over one night. You get to see this elaborately wonderful and captivating dance sequence, which I watched several times, and then it just descends into mayhem, as it seems as if somebody has spiked the punch and these guys are all going off their heads in strange and unusual ways, and it becomes a movie about claustrophobia, about losing your kind of id and just doing whatever you want, of just unbridled craziness as these guys kind of lose their humanity and just start doing the most bonkers things imaginable, and it just becomes completely chaotic. Check out the trailer for this one. Like I said, it's not for everybody, but if it's your catnip, you're going to love it. And now on to one of my favourite movies in the Arrow video collection, and that is Joe Dante's The Burbs. I love this film. It was another one that I watched a lot when I was younger. It was one that I picked up a couple of years ago, and I ended up watching it 4 times in 3 days, I think. I was just captivated by how well this movie works. And it has one of those really weird extras where it has Joe Dante's first videotape edit of the movie, and it's not greatest quality and it changes some things about, but it's a really interesting addition, the kind of thing that makes you go, I understand what Arrow do, going that extra mile, adding things that are just wonderful. The Burbs is one of those movies, and it's riotously funny and just holds up incredibly well. Tom Hanks is brilliant in this one. Next up we have a Tobe Hooper movie, and he again has a few movies in the Arrow video collection, all worth checking out, but I want to highlight Eaten Alive. This is one from the mid-70s that he did that seems to be kind of forgotten about, not really talked about, and it's all about this hotel in the middle of swampland where the owner has this gigantic crocodile penned up and just feeds people to it that come to stay at his apartment, and it's all kind of filmed in a unique way. It's done on a stage, and it uses these really crazy lights, this claustrophobic feel to it, this grimy, icky feel that he captured so well in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He transports some of that feeling into this movie, and it just becomes a kind of grindhousey exploitation piece that not a lot of people talk about, but it's quite a curiosity and worth recommending. Next up, I have Raising Cain, a Brian De Palma movie, another director that's fairly well represented within the library, and I think that Raising Cain is a tremendous movie. John Lithgow just knocks it out the part of this character who, well, he has quite a lot of sides to him, and they all come out throughout the movie. It is a great twisting thriller, murder mystery. What is going on? Who's behind everything? Why is it happening? It's all stunning stuff, and I really don't want to say too much about this one. If you haven't seen Raising Cain, pick it up. Don't read anything about it, just throw it on and be marvelled with this really wacky tale. Now, a couple of other titles which I don't actually have just now because I've loaned them out to people, which I'm prone to doing. And one of those is Society that I want to talk about. Society is a really weird movie from the late 80s, early 90s, directed by Brian Usna, and this is all about the shunting. But it takes a while to get there. This, we have Billy Wardlock as a guy who's been adopted into this rich family, and he just feels that something's not quite right about these people that he's called his parents for a number of years, and slowly discovers that this town, this community, this society has a dark underbelly and something strange is really going on. And when you get to that strangeness, it's worth it. It's worth going through the movie to get to that bonkers scene of just amazingness. Next up we have Slugs, which again I discovered in the video shops in the 80s. I thought it was wonderful. It's just a bonkers idea. Killer slugs invade a small town. And it has amazing special effects. The standout is, of course, the restaurant scene with the man who is ingesting a lethal slug, and how that ends is just wonderful. It is riotously funny. The way the slugs suddenly seem to surround the people. You get a typical hero and heroine as they battle against people just not believing them that the slugs are out to get them. It's wonderfully over the top, and I just adore it. So now on to 3 movies that I don't own as yet, but I could thoroughly recommend. A recent release is Harpoon, and this is a low budget movie that takes 3 characters, lifelong friends, 2 guys and a girl, puts them in a boat in the middle of the water, strands them there, and just lets everything unfold. And it's wonderfully set up and acted and just executed. It's a quick punchy number, and you'll never guess where this one's going to go next. And it has all these kind of facets all the way through it that just make it one of the strongest new release horror movies that I can think of in recent times. One that I am definitely encouraging people to pick up, and one that I may still go and pick up myself this time round. And a New Zealand movie that's not a horror but is definitely leaning into the genre and the way it tackles its subject is Mega Time Squad. Mega Time Squad is entirely my kind of movie. It has that New Zealand kind of humour that is just incredibly funny for me, and it's all about a guy who's a low-level criminal who is asked to do something that stumbles across this mystical bracelet that allows him to travel back in time a few minutes. And when he does this, he realises that there's 2 of him. And in most movies, they kind of try and avoid themselves. But at this point, these guys, who are not the smartest in the world, or the same guy, decide to start up a gang and go back a few times and create multiples of themselves and call themselves the Mega Time Squad. It's silly. It comes across as silly, but it treats the material with a straight face and with a good amount of respect. And it's just so much fun. It's silly, it's really short and punchy, and I just think it's just one of those movies that nobody's talking about, which is an incredible shame. And last for this video, I want to highlight a movie that I probably am going to go and pick up just after I finish this video, and that is Dave Made a Maze. This is the most creative movie I think I've seen in the longest while, and it has some really rich thematics about it, which I'll let you discover yourself when you watch the movie. But I want to talk about the conceit, the idea behind this one. We get Dave, who is going through some situations at the moment, trying to figure things out, and he builds himself a cardboard maze in his living room, a small little thing which he's inside, and that's where the movie kind of starts. And he is talking to somebody in his room, and he's just like, I'm stuck, please don't come in here, try and get me out if you can. And when they go into this world to try and save Dave, they discover this gigantic labyrinth-like maze that he is stuck in, and it's so creative. It's got monsters, it's got booby traps, it has wonderful ideas and executions behind it. People die on this journey, but instead of blood, it's like confetti that comes out, because everything is paper within this world other than the real characters. And it's just so vibrant, so energetic, so creative. that I couldn't help but just go, this is amazing. I don't even know how they would have started to create a lot of the things that they did here, but it's wonderful that it has been made, this movie, and that it's there for us to see on the Arrow video collection. So there we have it, a whole bunch of movies, another buttload of recommendations for you to check out. I hope there's something there that you maybe missed, that you kind of saw and think, you know, I'm going to go and check that out. That sounds like my kind of movie. If this is the kind of video that you like, I would love it if you feel that I've worked hard enough to earn your subscription, there's a little red button below this video, and I would be over the moon for you to hit subscribe and let me know that you're new to the channel and that you're joining along. And there'll be more videos coming similar to this in the near future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Man v Film.